Good morning. Just so everyone's aware, we are live streaming this meeting on YouTube. I will now read the notice of public hearing into the record. By the way, my name is Michael Lodato. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Town of Hempstead IDA, and I'm accompanied by Frederick E. Parola, the CEO of the Town of Hempstead IDA. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing pursuant to Title I of Article 18A of the New York State General Municipal Law will be held by the Town of Hempstead IDA on the 30th day of October 2024 at 10 a.m. local time at Town of Hempstead Town Hall, Town Courtroom, 350 Front Street, Hempstead, New York, 11550, in connection with the following matters. Ocean Avenue Marina, Inc., a corporation organized and existing under the laws of the State of New York on behalf of itself and or the principles of Ocean Avenue Marina, Inc., and or an entity to be formed or to be formed on behalf of any of the foregoing, submitted an application for financial assistance to the Town of Hempstead IDA to enter into a transaction in which the company has requested that the agency assist in the acquisition of an interest in an approximately 3.5-acre parcel of land located at 50 and 80 Waterfront Boulevard, Island Park, Town of Hempstead, Nassau County, New York, including the discontinuance of town roads for portions of Beach Avenue and Waterfront Boulevard, the demolition of the existing structures and improvements on the land, the construction of an approximately 135,406 square foot 4-story building on the land consisting of approximately 117 residential rental units, lobby, club room, grilling area and pool area, and garage parking lots on the land for approximately 196 vehicles, and the acquisitions of certain fixtures, equipment, and personal property necessary for the completion thereof. The facility will then be subleased by the agency to the company and further subleased by the company to future tenants for use as a transit-oriented market-rate rental housing facility. The agency contemplates that it would provide financial assistance to the company in the form of exemptions from mortgage recording taxes in connections with the financing or any subsequent refinancing of the facility, exemptions from sales and use tax, and abatement of real property tax. Excuse me. The company has requested that the agency provide financial assistance to the company in the form of an abatement of real property tax for a term of up to 20 years. The proposed pilot benefit deviates from the agency's uniform tax exemption policy and guidelines as amended to date because the proposed pilot benefit would be for a term of up to 20 years instead of a term of up to 10 years. A copy of the proposed pilot payment schedule are available on the agency's website, tohida.org. The agency is considering the proposed deviation from the policy due to the current nature of the property and because the company would not undertake the project and the project would not be economically viable without pilot benefits for a term of up to 20 years. A representative of the agency will be at the above stated time and place here and accept comments from all persons with views in favor or opposed to either the project or the financial assistance requested by the company. Comments may also be submitted to the agency in writing or electronically prior to or during the hearing by emailing them to idamail@hempsteadny.gov. Minutes of the hearing will be transcribed and posted on the agency's website. Members of the public have the opportunity to review the application for financial assistance filed by the company with the agency and an analysis of the costs and benefits for the proposed project, which can be found on the agency's website, tohida.org. To the extent practicable, the hearing will be streamed on the agency's website in real time in accordance with Section 857 of the New York State General Municipal Law. A video recording of the hearing will be posted on the agency's website, all in accordance with Section 857 of New York State General Municipal Law. The agency anticipates that the members of the agency will consider a resolution to approve the project and the financial assistance requested by the company, including the proposed 20-year pilot benefit at the agency's board meeting to be held on November 19, 2024 at 9 a.m. local time, Town of Hempstead Town Hall, Town Courtroom, 350 Front Street, Hempstead, New York, 11550. If anyone would like to speak, please step up to the podium, just click the microphone on, state where you're from for the stenographer, and you may speak.
Good morning. Vincent Randazzo, Superintendent of Schools, Island Park. Thank you for acknowledging receipt of my letter that I asked to officially be put in the record. And I'm also going to take a few moments to highlight some points that I made in that letter here today. The proposed tax exemption and 20-year pilot is proposed at a time when the district is already encountering financial and tax levy pressures. The district is already absorbing the significant assessment impact of the LIPA E.F. Barrett Power Plant tax certiorari settlement. LIPA EF Barrett Power Plant tax certiorari settlement set forth a 5-year glide path to decrease valuation from $15.5 million to $8.5 million in 26-27 school year. Thereafter, value to remain at $8.5 million as long as the power plant generates 1 kilowatt of electricity. On this glide path, the district has experienced a decrease of approximately 45.8% in Class 3 utility assessed value and a loss of total assessed value, Class 1 through Class 4, of approximately 51.5%. Absent offset through expenditure of reserves and available fund balance, as well as LIPA funds and bullet aid awarded to the district by the New York State Senate, the total tax increase would be approximately 47.8% on our residents. In the face of a substantially diminished assessment base, the Town of Hempstead IDA is considering an exemption for an additional taxable property coupled with a 20-year pilot period. This will place additional financial pressure and tax rate issues upon the district and its resident taxpayers. The project should not obtain tax abatement relief under the following circumstances. First, the creation of market rate housing through pilot assistance is outside of the Town of Hempstead IDA's statutory authority. This type of project is not one specified within the purpose of an industrial development agency. Second, the assistance under consideration by the Town of Hempstead IDA substantially deviates from its Uniform Tax Exemption Policy, UTEP, which sets forth a 10-year standard on pilot agreements receiving assistance from the Town of Hempstead IDA. Third, if the Town of Hempstead IDA determines to deviate from policy and applicable law and award pilot benefits, these benefits must be calibrated to address, first, the tax impacts upon the district and its residents; second, continued demands upon limited school resources; and third, the 10-year standard to be observed by the Town of Hempstead IDA under its UTEP. The projected pilot benefits would not provide adequate relief to the district. Pilot agreements detrimentally impact the district's tax levy in 3 principal ways. Pilot arrangements, specifically an underlying tax exemption, reduce overall taxable ratables against which the district taxes can be levied, shrinking the pie of taxable assessments and shifting tax levy burdens onto the owners of non-exempt parcels and increasing tax rates across the district. In the district's annual tax cap calculation, pilot revenues received by the district must be subtracted, which has the effect of reducing the overall amount of taxes the district may levy. And third, the elimination of the growth factor, which could otherwise be added to an allowable levy when new development is rendered tax exempt. Impact upon school resources and resource demands. The proposed pilot benefits will support a residential project inevitably producing school resource demands upon the district. These impacts must be evaluated as part of the State Environmental Quality Review, SEQRA evaluation of the project, and this process has yet to be undertaken. And I want to take a moment to just give one example. When I was here speaking against a pilot that the Town of Hempstead IDA awarded to Avalon Bay, you know, at that time there was a certain number of students that were projected to be entering into the district. And one of the things that I want to share is that you can never factor the type of students going to come into the district and whether or not the district has the resources and the ability to educate that child. Currently at Avalon Bay, there is a child with special needs that we cannot educate in our schools who costs the district over $100,000 per year to educate. Lives in Avalon Bay, and that's exactly what we're getting in a pilot. So the pilot payment doesn't even cover tuition for one student that we can't educate in district. The economic impact of the project and the proposed pilot benefits cannot and must not be considered in a vacuum. Costs must be considered, but the impact of additional budgetary pressures arising from the project in the context of the existing issues created by the LIPA EF Barrett power plant settlement and other residential developments within the district must also be considered. In sum, I ask the Town of Hempstead IDA to consider the district's written submission and my comments here today. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jack Vobis. I am the president of the Board of Education, the Island Park Union Free School District. So thank you for hearing me this morning, Mr. Parola. Sir, thank you. I did not prepare a statement. I actually did a written statement and read it into the record at the previous application for this applicant, Mr. Vitale, who owns the property in question. He actually is a veteran of the IDA hearings, as he previously received a similar pilot for part of his property after Superstorm Sandy, which incidentally was 12 years ago yesterday. And the difference between that and this is that there was a legitimate damage done to that property at that time. And in my statement, I acknowledge Mr. Vitale's contributions to the community, basically at the properties that are now in question, because it had a catering hall, which he made available to community organizations at a decreased cost. However, it seems that there's a little bit of a discrepancy that I noted in the application, and the same was true previously. Here, as I note, not only is we're assisting in the acquisition of an interest, Mr. Vitale's formed a company, Ocean Avenue Marina Incorporated, and that company will purchase the land from Mr. Vitale, who owns the land. So when the purpose in the stated announcement, the notice letter says the proposed pilot it will be amended for up to 10 to 20 years, and it deviates from the agency's authority. And the purpose of that is so that Mr. Vitale can build market rate housing, and due to the current nature of the property, and because the company would not undertake the project because it would not be economically viable without a pilot. So that's saying that Mr. Vitale can't afford to buy the land from himself and needs 20 years of abatement in order to recover those funds, where he's running a profitable company there now. So basically with the deal is that Mr. Vitale no longer wants to work on that land for his money. He wants to let the land work for him and not pay any taxes on it, which is, just listen to what I said, it's ridiculous. I would like all of the members of the board that are considering this application to think about whether this is economically viable for the taxpayers in Island Park. Did anyone ever consider that? I'm going to ask the board, everyone involved in making this decision, and those that were present when this was voted unanimously: Florestano Girardi, Thomas J. Gretsch, Dr. Eric C. Millett, Jack Majka, Jill Ann Molitor, and those that were not present, Robert Bedford and Jerry Kornbluth, when this was first presented back in July. I'm going to ask them to sit down and not only consider Mr. Vitale's application, but consider the plight of the taxpayer and the children in Island Park. As Mr. Randazzo just said, we're facing economic situations far greater than this pilot. But this pilot will just push us down deeper in trying to dig ourselves out of a hole that was created through the whole LIPA situation. So I'm just imploring the board, okay, by name, to consider the economic plight and whether it's viable for the citizens of Island Park. I understand this board considers benefits that are given to communities for projects such as this, okay, but there's no jobs to be had here. Once this is over, once the construction is done, you have a few people working on site. You have a maintenance crew, you might have a superintendent. That's it. It's not going to be a business where you're employing people, where you're selling things, or you're paying sales tax. This money is going directly into the owner's pocket. And no taxes are being paid. So I'm just asking that for the people of Island Park, on behalf of the school board in Island Park, that be considered. And not just say, oh yeah, maybe that's a consideration, but you know what, we really need to do this because this guy, you know, needs to build this and make some transit-oriented housing. But I'll just remind you in your own notice, market rate rental housing. So this is not affordable housing. This is not giving housing to people. This is not a veterans housing that's being built down the block from this facility that will also go from taxable property to non-taxable property at the expense of Island Park taxpayers. And as Mr. Randazzo said, this is all about educating children and being able to afford that. We're already looking at taxpayers were shocked at their last tax bill because this LIPA settlement has started to kick in and the money is just not available anymore. And we're looking for ways to plug that gap, and this is just making the gap wider. So thank you again for having me and letting me make my statement. And I will, again, in closing, just implore members of the board to actually sit down and consider the plight of the taxpayer, not just the plight of the applicant. Thank you.
Should I wait for him to return? Okay. My name is Richard Shurin. I live at 167 Jefferson Avenue, Island Park, New York. I'm a resident and homeowner within this district. I brought with me my school tax levy, and I want to represent to the board that my school taxes went up over 10% this year. And understanding the situation in the school district, I expect it to go up even more. Island Park is a working class district. We're not talking about, this is not Syosset or Garden City or other places like that. People here live paycheck to paycheck, all right? We cannot continue to absorb 10% increases, yearly increases in our school taxes. It's not. My taxes went from $9,500 to $11,000. Okay, I have it with me if you'd like to take a look at it. Okay. And the value of my house is approximately $800,000. Okay, but this is typical. This is what every homeowner in our small district. Our school is the smallest school district on Long Island. We have a budget of approximately less than $50 million. Up until recently, approximately 45% of that budget was being paid by the Barrett Power Plant, LIPA. As you should know, there was a decade-long process where they challenged the assessment, and the Nassau County entered into a settlement with them, and they decreased that by at least 50%. So as a result, we're approaching this fiscal cliff that our superintendent spoke of, and for the board to consider this pilot, as Mr. Robus indicated, you're just continually compounding the difficulty on the residents of Island Park. And I just want to say, I'm taken aback by the fact that there's not a single board member that showed up for this public hearing. The applicant's not here. It's a disrespect to our community. It's a continued disrespect to our community, in my opinion. I want to also give a little bit of history of this site, to the extent that the applicant did not indicate it in his application. This site was originally a nightclub called Channel 80, extremely successful nightclub. Okay, Mr. Vitale owned it at that point, right? He then converted it into a Bridgeview Catering Hall, extremely successful catering hall, okay? From which the town and the school district, throughout all these years, you know, we received a tax benefit as a result of these. But we also incurred the inconvenience. We had a huge nightclub that we bore the burden of having that in our community. Then we had a catering hall, okay, which is, from all intents and purposes, seems to be extremely profitable. And he also owned Patty McGee's, which was another restaurant attached to that, right? As Mr. Robus indicated, he converted that into a successful, extremely successful rental development. So in my mind, he's already proven the economic viability of this project. From what I understand, the project that he's proposing now is very similar to the project that exists right next to it, which has been proven to be an economic success. So I don't believe that he needs a 20-year tax abatement in order to have a successful project. He's not converting contaminated property to a new use. He's converting a successful catering hall to a rental development that's going to be essentially identical to the rental development that's right next door. So what's the purpose of this IDA? Is the purpose of this IDA to gift developers who, for all intents and purposes, haven't shown to this board a need? What you're doing is you're transferring money from me, a homeowner, to him, a successful, experienced developer. Okay, that's what you're doing. And I've heard before that you should measure the taxes that are being paid now to what the pilot is. That's not correct. You should measure the taxes that we would receive when the property is properly assessed as a rental development to the pilot, whatever extreme discount you're offering him. So he should, I believe he will. I know Mr. Vitale. I believe he will develop that property without the pilot, He will develop it. It will be a successful rental development, and we ought to be able to reap the benefits of that through a proper assessment of that property and the proper tax revenue that goes to the school district, which will lessen my taxes, or at least keep them the way they should be. It's an unfair burden that you're passing on to us, okay? And that's not the purpose of the IDA. I read your purpose, okay? You are here to provide financial assistance to developers in need, not to provide financial assistance to every single applicant that comes your way. You should take into account the complete circumstances of this situation. And just to review, I just want to say, you have a community that's struggling. We're struggling from a situation with the Barrett Power Plant settlement, okay? Our taxes are going up 10% a year as a result of that, okay? You have a successful developer in our community, very successful. He's proposing essentially an identical development to what's next door, okay? We ought to benefit from that, from the proper assessed value of that project. He ought not receive a 20-year tax abatement, which is 10 years even beyond what you're statutorily permitted to do, is my understanding. You are there for the entire community, not just the developers. So I ask you, please, don't make our situation worse. Don't make it so we're all going to have to move. It literally is that, coming to that. We go to school board meetings, we're cutting programs. We're working on contingency plans for the next couple of years. Tell this developer, Mr. Vitale, that he's been a member of our community for more than 20 years, 30 years, I think. Okay, he's had successful businesses in our community. He can give back to our community here. He doesn't need this 20-year tax abatement. He can if he wants to finance it, he can show his project right next door as an example of the success. He doesn't need this. So please do not give this to him. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Salvatore Carambia. I'm the business administrator at Island Park Schools. And not to reiterate what my members have said from our community, and board member and Mr. Randazzo, our superintendent of schools, but as everyone knows in this room, school districts are required to submit a tax cap. We, in the past, since I've been at the district and previously, have not exceeded that cap. In fact, we've been below the cap, and at worst, we've met the cap. Once again, as previously stated, this is putting a major burden on our homeowners and the school district. Health insurance, other contractual agreements that we are tied to are forcing us to find other ways to provide the proper education for our students and to stay within the cap. We are applying our reserves on a yearly basis, thus hurting the financial stability of the district going forward, and once again, a pilot for the amount of time that they're proposing is very detrimental to the district. I have received phone calls from our taxpayers. They no longer can afford to live at Island Park. I have seniors calling me saying, Sal, could I set up a payment plan? I can't make those tax payments. And I don't know what to tell them. These are people, once again, that love Island Park, have lived in Island Park for a long time, and now we're hurting them even more. Avalon Bay, Mr. Randazzo and I walked past yesterday afternoon after our lunch, and the place looks empty. I don't know the numbers, but I would bet you that place is nearly half full in terms of people renting that property. In addition, this new facility, what are the rents going to be? $3,000, $4,000? And as we all know, no one could buy a house these days. Interest rates are crazy. And who could afford rents to that extent? This is really going to be, again, in addition to the LIPA settlement that has hurt us tremendously, speaking plainly, this is going to be another shot at Island Park that is going to drive our residents crazy. And it's not right, it's not fair, and it's just purely something that needs to be addressed. We have these meetings. Once again, IDA held these previous, meetings, and they're pushed through. And the way it looks like here today, the two of you are here, and I thank you, but this looks like a fait accompli, and we hope that's not the case. Thank you very much for listening to me. Have a great day.
Good morning. My name is Ian Smith. I am the Assistant Library Director at the Island Park Public Library. On behalf of the library, I'd like to echo the school district statements and the statements of representatives from the Island Park Civic Association. Our taxpayers have already been significantly affected by the Barron Power Plant settlement, and they will face even greater burdens when the tax levy shifts onto them to compensate for the reduced funds resulting from the property exemptions and the extended 20-year pilot period. The proposed tax exemption and 20-year pilot will affect the community as it adapts to the EF Barrett Plan's reduced assessment. The library is already experiencing financial strain from the reassessment at a time where our children's programs are needed more than ever. And the proposed tax exemptions and extended pilot period will further increase this pressure. If a pilot is established for the Ocean Avenue Marina project, we request that the library be explicitly named as one of the recipients. Thank you for your time.
I neglected to mention in my previous comments that I'm also a member of the Island Park Civic Association, and I represent that association in this hearing. Thank you. Richard Shuren.
Gentlemen, you had handed up, I thought it was 3 letters, but I'm seeing 2. Was there just 2 letters from everyone here today? Have Mr. Randazzo and the public library, that was it? Okay. We're going to keep this open a couple more minutes, see if anyone shows up, and then we'll probably end the meeting. I don't see anyone else that would like to get up and speak. We've been here for half an hour now. We're going to close this public hearing at 10:30 on October 30th. Sine die. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending and giving your comments.